Hi, Flash Tube, it's Diane. Make one more adjustment here. Yeah. Today, always happens. You start the video and then you start coughing. Today is September 23rd, 2024. It is one of my son's birthdays. He's 20 years old today. He should not be that old. So obviously it's not mini dot, but I have 11 boys, so anyway. I know it's been 2 months. And there's this thing called life, you know, it just happens. So I have a mixture of stuff here, and we're just gonna move forward with it and see how far we get. So, for my birthday, some dear friends of mine gifted me a gift card to Pet Workshop. Anyway, so what I ordered is, I was thinking about it and looking at what was available, and I'm going to make this quilt, except wall hanging size, so it is, because that's the queen. The wall hanging size, does it tell me how big the wall is? I don't know. But I was inspired by this. It's red and white. Yeah, it doesn't, I'm sure it says in here somewhere, it's just not popping into my attention. So I purchased Garnet and Gingham Fat Quarter Bundle from Kim Diehl. And look at those delicious reds and whites. And then I ordered extra of this one as the accent for that quilt. I also ordered from Teresa Kogut, Foxes Have Dens. She showed this in one of her videos, the model, and it's just beautiful. The coloration is just beautiful. So you see the birds here, and then the foxes, and more flowers here. So the foxes have dens, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Matthew 8, verse 20. So I purchased that one. I remember really liking it when she showed it on her video. I also bought one of these. When you do machine quilting, to avoid your fabric catching on your machine, you can put one of those on, and I'm going to try it. And then the collaboration between Plum Street Samplers and Shakespeare's Peddler, Stars and Stripes. So stars and stripes. This series has been on my radar since it came out. So I ordered it. Thank you, those of you. If you know who you are. But really, since that time, my stitching bug has been on hiatus. Vacation, it's at a spa. I don't know where it's at. I've been looking for it, and I've tried some new things. You know, I had things kitted, so I started them. But it's just, I don't know if it's the time of year, because I do more stitching in the winter. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I have been more in the mood to quilt. And I've also combined the two. So I'm going to get some of this quilting stuff out of the way. I'm going to start this side and go that way. For my future daughter-in-law, I've been working on a quilt for her. And I have all the blocks done. So this is one of the blocks. It goes this way, actually. And then I have to lay it out, and you turn it, and it makes a nice pattern. If you can make a half square triangle, or yeah, where you have the green and the white. You can make this block. Just saying. And it is from Creekside Stitches Company. Creekside Stitches, Slice of Home. And this is the model from this pattern. So they just took, you can make it with 1 layer cake. I used 2 because I wanted a bigger contrast. So I do have extra blocks. And my plan is to finish that for her for Christmas. So I have that. And also for my birthday, my husband didn't know this, I bought my own birthday gift. I'm sure there's many of us who do that at some point in your marriage. Just, it's easier on everybody. Oh, excuse me. In Minnesota, every year they have what they call Quilt Minnesota. I know they have a Quilt Wisconsin. I'm not sure about other states. But I know that they have it for Minnesota. And so the fabrics are inspired by Minnesota. It could be the flora, fauna, historic events. It could be a whole variety of things. So the quilt shop had some samples of what you can make with the fabrics on the wall. And they had this one. Now, this picture does not do the fabric justice. It really, really does not. So I got the kit. That's what I purchased for my birthday. Well, my husband purchased it for me. He just didn't know. And I mean, isn't this beautiful? Yes, the Minnesota state bird is the loon. It explains a lot about the politics in Minnesota, among other things. But the artist is from Australia. I can't remember. I had a brochure that had his name, but he did all these fabrics. And so this quilt I'm going to make, I don't think this has the name. But yeah, so I have that one now. See if I can find his name at some point. But he did just a beautiful job. And then for Quilt Quarterly, I have everything to make this guy Switch-a-roo. I have everything for that. This was April, May, June. You get one part every month. And then we had July, because it's making this one called Coconut Chips. And so I have all the fabrics for July. These are for August and September. Yes, September. It says it right there if I read it. And they had where you can, she had this on sale. So this is to make one of those little bowl cozies that you throw in your microwave. So you put the bowl in there, you put it in the microwave, then your hand doesn't get burnt. I'm going to try that. I haven't made one. So it was like $1 and anyway, is that everything on that side? That is everything on that side. And then I combined my stitching and cross stitch. Again, I'm more in the mood to quilt. Well, I showed this last time. This is Salute to Abigail by Blackbird Designs. I did not have the binding on, but now it is done. The only thing I would do differently is I made a 2-inch binding. I don't know what got in my head. 2.5 inch works better for me. But this block are inspired by this motif. So that's how I got that. Did take a little math to figure it out. So I went to the quilt shop because I thought, ooh, I have these other pieces that would look really good. And I thought I would do something similar, but then I found this fabric. This is Nothing But the Blood by My Big Toe Designs. And this fabric is just gorgeous. These beautiful trees. And I did make it so the trees, the roots are touching the stitching or touching the frame around the stitching. And I mitered the corners. That was fun until corner number 4, of course, because that's the one that always needs to be redone. So now I need to put batting and quilt this. I'm going to just keep it really simple. Stitch in a ditch. And I might just do straight line stitching, because I will not stitch into the cross stitching. I don't want to snag anything. And there's only 4 colors. This is, oh, I knew what it was at one point in time. It's Vintage Lentil by Lakeside. I want to say it's 36 count. It's definitely 1 strand over 2 threads. It could be 40, but I'm pretty sure it's 36. But it has that Vintage Lentil by Lakeside. It has that hint of green in it, where regular lentil, or is vintage more subtle with the green, and I'd have to compare the two. It's been a while since I saw lentil. And then I again looked what I had finished, and I found this one. This is Rosewood Manor, Arise My Soul. This one is with overdyed. That one was with DMC. It's whatever's called for in the pattern. I want to say it's Weeks. It could be Classic Colorworks or even Gentle Arts. I did not do mitered corners on this one because I thought this print was really pretty busy. I didn't need that. Yeah, and so I pulled the purple because there's purple there in the flowers at the bottom. I think the alphabet's also in purple, so that's one reason I chose purple. I found doing this, having a frame right next to the stitching helps stabilize the stitching. I've just noticed that, and that my stitching does have interfacing on the back. Now, the only thing I have about this one, oh, it's 36 count Lakeside Vintage River Willow. The only, oh, that's a little schlub in the linen, I'll fix that. I'm thinking this outer border is a wee bit big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quilt it, again, not into this area. I'll do stitch in a ditch here, but I won't go into this area. After this is quilted, if I still feel that this is too big, then I'll trim it. But I'm not going to trim it right now, because you could always trim it back down. And I have a couple more that I've set aside and I found fabric for, but I haven't worked on them, so I'll show them. So it's kind of an interesting way of combining quilting and stitching. And it's a nice finish. I mean, framing is nice, but you only have so much wall space. And those will be wall hangings. But, sorry, I have something in my eye. They could be a little more seasonal, if what I'm thinking of hanging them works or not. My future daughter-in-law was garage sailing and she found this one for me. So just a bunch of little designs and some alphabets. It's nice to have alphabets, so if you personalize something and the alphabet's not included, it's a good source. She got it for like $1/4. Yeah. What to talk about next? I was again combining my quilting, stitching, sewing, and I have this one, Float Like a Butterfly, Sting Like a Bee. This one is Plum Street Samplers. This one is Heartstring Samplery. They use the same colors. My only complaint, they are on the same fabrics, 40 count summer khaki. My only complaint is they use the same colors, but they don't necessarily use the same symbols between the two patterns. So I did this one first and I was stitching on it, and then when I started this one, because I already had the floss ready, not all of the colors are the same symbol. I wish that they would have done that. And then I used this bee fabric on the back. So these are ready to be stuffed. I'm going to stuff them with walnut shells and put a little cotton in the corners. I watched a tutorial by Vanna. She talked about doing that to keep your corners out and then stitch them closed. I also did this one. This is by Teresa Kogut, Sunshine and Blossoms. Now this one was released exclusively at the Stitch in the Wild Retreat 2023. And Teresa has said on her videos that this will be out sooner than later. So she will release it, and she will also release it with the option of not including the words if you don't want to. It's in the call for colors on 40 count Grandma's Slip XJ Designs. I like her fabrics. I've never stitched on her fabrics until this, and I really liked it. One strand over 2 threads, call for colors. And this is the back. So again, it's all ready. When I do these, I follow the advice of others and I put interfacing on the back of the stitching. And I follow Kathy Haberman's finishing. I had an opportunity to take a class from her once, and I think she also has some good tutorials on her YouTube channel. Hands-on Design, Kathy Haberman. And I finished this one, Flights of Fancy by JBW Designs. This on the back, and this opening ready to stuff. This is in the call for colors. It's 40 count. I did this earlier this year, so I'm sure it's in one of my videos earlier this year. Oh, maybe I have it in here. But it was a fun stitch. And I know that they had, for 2024 market, they had, this is Flight of Birds, and they had Flights of Fancy, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, these are Eliza's French Birds. And then the Flight of Fancy is the new one. Did not record what fabric I stitched it on. It's 40 count, but I don't know. And then I watched a Lori Holt tutorial online because I have these little 2.5-inch squares. When for baby number 8, I was trying to figure out what colors he wanted, and I was at the quilt shop, so I took some of those little mini charm packs. They're 2.5-inch, just to give him an idea of some fabrics out there. Well, now I made them into a little thing. And I found at the dollar store this notebook. Oh, it's too big. To get a smaller one. Might be a notebook cover, maybe. And I had enough to make 2, so I have to sew those shut too. So I've been combining and doing stuff and keeping busy. It's just wherever my stitching bug went, I don't know. And I did start, I think I showed this one. I started my son and daughter-in-law's sampler. I think I did. If I did, we'll just see it again. Let Love Rain, Teresa Kogut. Here is the model. This book has, I think, 3 or 4 designs in it. I love the colors. I'm using Vicki Clayton silks. This is 40 count Beach Brew by R&R. And that's how far I got. I know I haven't added to this if I showed it last video. I feel like I have, because I talked about how I was storing my bobbins in one of these. Now this is the larger bobbin case. There's a smaller one. This is the size M, but these fit in there. Because I was trying to figure out, do you just, sorry, my foot's falling asleep. Do you just string them on a string? But you can't do that because then you'll lose the label. And so far I'm liking stitching with her silks. I haven't, this is the first project I've done that way. And yeah, it's nice. This one I know I did start since last video, and it is Summer Quaker, Leela Studios. I have Spring Quaker already finished. It's waiting until I get the other seasons done, and then I'm going to finish them the same way. Well, that's nice. I don't have the fabric in here. The fabric is 40 count vintage country mocha, but oh, I bet you it's still on my scroll rods. So I guess I'm going to show that one to you next time. I didn't get much on it. Again, I tried, but my stitching bug is just, it's not been cooperating. August we had 4 birthdays, and let me put these over here so I don't lose them. We had 4 birthdays, and one of the birthdays was our grad from 2024. And so we combined his open house from high school with his 18th birthday party. That was really nice. Beautiful weather. Oh man, it was just a beautiful day, nice amount of people. And it kind of ebbed and flowed, so you could talk to people, and yeah, it was good. It was a good day. So he was one of the birthdays. Also in August, we had our furnace people. They were just checking maintenance. Yeah, your heat exchanger's cracked. And so we had to put a new furnace in, new HVAC system. Yeah, that wasn't on our bingo card for 2024. But we have a heat pump now, and you know, the upstairs will always be warmer than the downstairs, just the nature of things, but it seems a little more even. So that was done in August. Surprise. And I also had my annual physical. I encourage you to get an annual physical because you'll get a baseline. So if ever you get a little blip, you have all that history, all that data that the doctors can look at, because they always go, well, what about this and what about, and you're trying to remember, and all of us are doing 15,000 different things. So just having an annual physical, I know it's not the most comfortable thing, but it's worth it. And I had my annual mammogram. My mom is 7 years cancer free from breast cancer, and they discovered her cancer on an annual mammogram. If they would have waited another year before finding it, it would not have been good. Let's put it that way. Because a very aggressive form. So it's worth it. And I know it's not comfortable. And yes, I've had bad mammograms. I had one, that woman was a sadist. I was like, are you kidding me? And then I had another one, I was really nervous about it, but the room was warm, smaller, so it was a little more intimate. The techs have always been very gentle and reassuring and in and out in 20 minutes. So yeah, it's worth it if you're of the age, and particularly if you have the family history. You should consider it. And then I had my echo on my heart because I have a baby aneurysm, and nothing's changed since last year, which is good. And I'll see a cardiologist in February for 3 years after they found it. But when I emailed my mom to let her know, because she was like, okay, when is it going to get done? She emailed back and she told me that my uncle, Corky, It's not his legal name, that's his nickname. Apparently when he was really little, someone referred to him as a little corker, and cork stuck. He was in the hospital and he wasn't going to survive. So my mom and dad live in Rapid City. They live in Montana. And they were trying to figure out what to do. Because that next week, my mom and dad were going to drive to Kansas. My dad was born and raised in Kansas, in DeMar, Kansas. And supposedly it's called DeMar because it takes a DeMar to go from Paynesville to Hill City. If you know, you know. We'd always visit Grandpa and Grandma there. It's dad's 60th high school graduation reunion and a family reunion. So they were going to go, and Mom was like, oh, you know, with all this going on, I can't go, and I want Dad to go, but she didn't want him to drive himself, and she was like, I know my mom, and I'm a lot like her, so Shannon and I were going to go to the Stitching and Wild retreat in Alabama. And it'll be 2 days drive down, 2 days back. And so I asked him, I said, well, instead of going there, what if we went from Minnesota to Rapid City and then went from Rapid City to Kansas, and then a few days later did the reverse? And so we talked about it and talked to my parents, and that's what we did. So I missed the Stitching and Wild retreat. There's always next year. And so Sunday the 8th was the open house. So the 9th, my husband and I drove from Minnesota to Rapid City. And then so that was Monday, the Tuesday, I guess that would be the 10th, we drove from Rapid City to Kansas. From Rapid to there, it's about an 8.5-hour drive. Sorry, I had to take that call. That's not the same number that would call just when I started the video. We drove to Kansas, yes. That way, my dad, I mean, he could take a nap, he could enjoy the scenery, but even though it was sad that Mom had to stay in Rapid, because there are 4 girls in her family and then 2 boys, and my aunt who lives in Phoenix was going to fly up to Rapid, and then they would drive to Montana because it would be probably less expensive and easier in and out. But they just kind of played it by ear. And then we drove down, and Dad was kind of sharing some stories, and yeah, brought back some good memories. And then met my cousin that I probably met in the past, but my dad is the youngest of 11, and he's the oldest of the second child. So they are pretty close in age, and they kind of grew up together. They were regaling us with tales of their childhood. And, oh, I remember when you did this, and I did that. And so they've renewed their friendship. About 10 years ago, they renewed their friendship. And they get together, and it's interesting in a good way. But Wednesday, my husband and I, we went to Hays, Kansas. He stayed with them, my cousin and his wife, which was the plan all along. And then my husband and I, we stayed in Hays in a hotel. And so that Wednesday, the 11th, we went to Fort Hays, the historic Fort Hays, and we did that tour. And that tour, it's worth going through. It's a walking tour, but it's not very long, and you don't really have to climb stairs. You just little ones if you want to, but you don't have to, because they have some of the original buildings. And so I bought the book on Fort Hays to use in our school because I want my kids to know, where my dad, he's from Kansas. He grew up in Kansas. So I bought that book. I bought Tenting on the Plains, or General Custer in Kansas and Texas. Can you imagine being in a tent? Kansas, Texas, or Texas. No plumbing, no AC. I just, the grit of the people in this era, amazing. And I also purchased the Kansas Indians, The History of the Wind People from 1673 to 1873. It looks really interesting. And Kansas, at an S, comes from the Kansas tribe, and Arkansas is associated somehow, because it does discuss that in the beginning here. I glanced through it. I haven't read in this. I started that one, but I want to do this one too. And then I bought a coloring book for Mini Dot and his older brother. You know, the story of Kansas, and you know, the state bird and all of that. Although, so we did that. That was really fun. And then there was a quilt shop in town. They are retiring and going out of business. But I took the king size quilt I'm making for my husband in my bed. I finished it. That border was just, it was just sitting there going, you just have to put the border on, get it done. Technically my cousin's wife, but my cousin, she has a long armor. So she's graciously doing that, and yes, I'm going to pay her. And so I was able to find enough fabric at a good rate, good price, to do the back on that quilt. So I have to piece it together. They also had this one, Freedom Bound. This is an out of print pattern, and let's see, Common Threads Quilting. I'm going to totally butcher this, but I'm going to try it. Waxahachie, Texas. Waxahachie, Texas. It reminds me of a place in Washington State, Wananachi. But this has all of the, it's like a 12-month block of the month program. And this was the store copy, as in for shop use only. Yeah. But they were selling it because they're clearing out things. And so it gives you the block, explains it all. Plus, it also gives you the story, true story, of Harriet Cotton. She was born into slavery and eventually did have her freedom granted to her and her 8 children. Yeah, I'm going to leave that there because I have a hard time understanding owning a person. Anyway. Sorry. While we're in Kansas, since my stitching bug has been on a hiatus, I did bring some wool. I thought, well, maybe that'll get me. It's kind of a combination in between quilting and stitching. And I finished, yeah, this guy. This is Buttermilk Basin, and it's a little snowman. I had it all cut out, and I just needed to do all the stitching and put his little buttons on. So I did that one evening in the hotel, just kind of chilling. Thursday, we went to Cedar Bluffs Reservoir. So yes, Kansas does have some elevation changes. It's not flat as a pancake beyond the interstate. You have to get beyond the interstate. But that was really pretty. Really beautiful reservoir. And found out my cousin, he's retired now, but he was a biologist, a marine biologist for that reservoir. So that was interesting. I didn't realize that. And then we hung out at my cousin's, and they were hosting the family reunion, so they needed some help, cooking stuff and getting to know them more and chatting. Friday, we had a chance to go up to my friends, or our friends, I should say, in Nebraska. We've known them for over 30 years now, because we knew her before we were married, and they started dating shortly after we were married. And I was bridesmaid at their wedding. So it was nice to go see them. They had a new house, and it was just weird though, because the four of us adults could talk for a while and no kids, because her kids were in school. That was weird. That was weird. Yeah, because two of their boys are doing college, and the other one, he's 13, 14. So yeah, it's just very, very interesting. But it was nice to catch up with them. And they're the kind of friends where you start going, oh, wow, we really haven't talked in years, but you just pick up where you left off. They're those type of friends. And then Saturday was the family reunion. I met, again, a number from my dad's side of the family. Yeah, it was gorgeous weather. And Kansas can bake, definitely. But there was enough cloud cover that it was cool. There's enough breeze. It's just gorgeous. Gorgeous weather. Breeze kept the bugs away. And then we drove Dad from there to Hayes, where his class reunion was. Dropped him off. And the next day we drove from Hayes to Rapid. So that'd be Sunday. We drove from Hayes to Rapid. And then Monday we drove from Rapid home. Yeah. So then we were home Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then this last Saturday, Sunday, we had a shooting event in Rochester, Minnesota. It's just under 100 miles from us. So we had to get up at like 4 in the morning on Saturday, drive down, and Shannon did the event, and I did some shopping. So they have a great quilt shop down there called Pine Needles Quilts, or Pine Needles Quilting, in Rochester. And I had a couple things I wanted, like this. I have a cone of thread that will sit on here, and you set this next to your machine, and then it feeds through. That cone of thread doesn't sit on my machine, so I wanted one of these to put next to it so I could use the cone of thread. That's why I bought it. And then I also wanted this. It's a seam guide. If you know, you know. It helps. And I need more needles. Just like cross stitch, you always need more needles quilting. And I like the quilting needles from that brand. And then I found this designer, Kaye England, and this is called her signature scraps. It's called Amber Waves of Grain. When she originally, and she talks about it in the pattern, she thought of 50 states. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 34, 38, 42, 48, 52. Okay, maybe my math's wrong. But what did she say? I guess it's 50 stars. State names and dates are applied to the quilter, but could be done ink or embroidery, or you could use it as an autograph quilt. So 50 autograph and 49 stars. So she reproduced a quilt that she had seen somewhere. So maybe I miscounted. There might be 50. But I just thought, I have scraps galore. What a nice way to use your scraps. She also had this one, Martha Washington, because she has a Voices of the Past series. There are 12 of them. And you could still get them as PDF. I didn't find that out until I left the quilt shop. I could get all 12 of the patterns because I didn't have all of them. Excuse me. I apologize. The website I saw had them all 12 of them for $35. I picked that one up. I just thought that was just beautiful. So you have a big print and then you have the blocks. And she goes into some history of Martha Washington. And then this one, Betsy Ross. With the flags and the stars and the smaller. So that's the same block. This is 6 inches and this is 12 inch. And there's a couple that are set on point. They're the 6 inch set on point. So I love Kansas Troubles fabric. She just has a classic style. So these are 4 of the colors to go in there. This red will go on the stripes, but then the blue and the green and the gold to pull it together. Otherwise I have scraps. And I got the her backgrounds, her favorite backgrounds. And so it'll work together. I think it'll be nice. A nice quilt. And also got a gift for someone, but and also while I was there, I went to Menards. I know it sounds weird, but if you use this either in your quilting or just ironing shirts, this is $10 at the quilt shop. At Menards, $5. Same everything. This is $5 at Menards. I found that out. I was watching some video and she said, oh, the Menards, they're usually cheaper. And I could not believe this is this. So I priced it out and it's half the price of what it is at the quilt shop. This is my favorite starch. So everybody kind of tries different things, figures it out, and that's my favorite. So I picked up some of those at Menards and some other cleaning stuff we needed. I like to collect keychains when I travel, so I got this one from Nebraska. Oops, sorry. It's a flag, and then it has, I like the ones that spin like this, the state seal of Nebraska, and then Kansas. Sunflower State, I got this one. And the K and the S. That is what twirls. Yeah. Mini Dot would have liked my cousin because, so I got those in the respective states, but he's from Kansas State, and their colors are purple and white. And Mini Dot's favorite color is purple. But at the shooting event, I did participate on Sunday. And this was from June. I did it again. We shot 5 tests, and I shot rifleman on 3 of them. I didn't think I would do it the first test. I'm like, okay. And my husband, he took my sheet and he checked it. And he had one of the other instructors check it, and I got rifleman. I'm like, no, I didn't. He said, yeah, you did. So there's also a tan block, so I guess you can only get one in an event, so I'm gonna have to get another one. But the purple is in memory of a lady from Florida who was very involved. She was really, from all accounts, a really, really nice lady. She loved Appleseed, and she promoted it whenever she could. She volunteered whenever she could. She just loved the whole community. And then she passed away, and they wanted to reward her, or honor her, I should say. And her favorite color was purple because she always wore purple. She always wore purple. And it's Project Appleseed if you're interested. They have places all over the U.S. And it teaches marksmanship and safety and the history and how the marksmanship of the U.S., of the settlers, the colonists, I should say, or as the Brits called them, the Jonathans, how they surprised, well, they surprised the world, particularly Britain, and their officers and their regulars. It was a different type of warfare, and it just, why would they not surrender? And it's a lot to think about, and led to the American stubbornness that we all seem to have. But yeah, so now I'm just looking to catch a breather. It's just been nuts. And the birthday boy today, he joked with us last night. He said, boy, it's like you guys don't like us anymore. You're just doing all this stuff without us. But I've been blessed to have older children to be able to watch my younger children. So I had my 24-year-old, my 21-year-old, my now 20-year-old. I'll say no, 24, 23, 21, now 20, and 18-year-old for my 5 minor children. So 1-to-1 ratio. And they did well. The house is still standing. The dogs are still alive. They got fed. So it works. It works. But I'm sure that's all I have right now. I want to put some of this stuff away. So I'm like, I got to do this video and just have it done. But I'm still looking for my stitching bug. I put nearly 3,500 miles in our truck trying to find the thing, and it's still hiding on me. But that's okay. We all go through those phases where we're just stitching like crazy and then not. It's been a while since my stitching bug was lost, actually. But getting into my quilting, and my goal for 2025 quilting wise is to finish baby number 9 and baby number 10's quilts. They're both queen size quilts. And I'll have my quilt back. I asked her, by our anniversary, which is March, just whenever. But I got to do the backing. I have the fabric over here. I need to do the backing and send it to her. But they're doing some traveling, so I'll get it to her before hunting season. Oh, and the newlyweds, or soon to be newlyweds, they bought a house and they close this Friday. It's about a half hour from us, 40 minutes, because road construction. There's only so many bridges over the river, but let's tear all of them up. And I wonder why people are complaining that they can't go from one side to the other. I don't get it. I do not understand. And they still don't have our road open over there. It's like, okay, you started in May. Get it done. But, yeah. I'll come back when I have something to show, or the next big thing is going to be the wedding. That's the end of November, so I'm probably going to do the rehearsal dinner is probably going to be Thanksgiving dinner type of scenario, because they're to get married that Saturday. So, but yeah, that's all. Trying to clean the cobwebs out. But love to you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.